Hey guys, OCP Communications, and welcome to my review of the RoboCop Marvel cartoon from 1988. This is a cartoon series that lasted about 12 episodes, didn't do very well, pretty much was kind of forgotten about and, you know, pretty much not remembered by barely anybody. It didn't do very well ratings. It was pretty much an abject failure, partly because parents were pissed. Parents didn't like the idea of turning an R-rated character into a cartoon for kids. And also the toy line by Kenner that was made to, you know, be a companion to this show in order to help make the show a little bit more popular. Well, that didn't end up doing very well either due to parent backlash, and maybe also due to the fact that the toys were annoying as hell with their cap firing actions. But, you know, I really have no idea what really... I don't really know the exact, you know, story of why this show didn't work. But I enjoyed it. I gotta be honest. I did not expect to enjoy this show as much as I did. I thought this was going to be pain. I thought it was going to be so goofy and corny and stupid and just awful and all around bad. And there are a few episodes of the show that are exactly that. But it's not as embarrassing as Alpha Commando, where they turn RoboCop into, you know, Inspector Gadget and having shit pop out of every part of his fucking body and have him rolling around on rollerblades and shit. We don't. At least this cartoon at least gives RoboCop his dignity, leaves him with some dignity, so to speak. Although there are some scenes where, you know, that dignity is absent, like sequences where you're subjected to watch RoboCop suffer through a cold and drink chicken noodle soup, which is painful and atrocious and absolutely horrible to see. But hey, the whole cartoon is not like that. And I gotta be honest, you know, it's corny. Yeah, it's got some really corny lines, and it's really goofy at points, and kind of silly. But that's the way that pretty much every cartoon from the 80s was. So, kind of hard to criticize it just on that. And, you know, overall just, you know, fun time waster, fun show, you know, turn your brain off. It's a cartoon. It's not meant to be taken seriously anyway. And I understand taking the original film, the classic movie, and turning it into a cartoon is kind of an offensive idea, but I was able to let that slide a little bit. I was able to let it slide, I was able to put myself in the right mindset, and I was able to have a good time. I don't know if you guys will, I don't know if other RoboCop fans will feel the same way, but for what it was, I enjoyed it. I really did. I felt that it had a good balance of trying to, you know, still keep the humanity of Murphy present. It didn't just turn him into a straight-up automaton robot like Alpha Commando and RoboCop 3. He still had his humanity. There were episodes that tried to deal with him and his humanity. The show, you know, actually touched upon, you know, really touchy subjects at the time, and even nowadays, like racism and, you know, Middle Eastern relations and the you know, strife that was going on over there, and also other issues like environmental issues like pollution. But I thought in the episode that it dealt with pollution, which I'll get into later enough when I just reviewed the whole, you know, episode by episode in this video, it wasn't like Captain Planet. It wasn't like, you know, the sequences in RoboCop 2 where RoboCop is admonishing people and, you know, letting them know you should, you know, bad feelings, you know, bad words lead to bad feelings. No, none of that stuff. So, it was for a cartoon, it wasn't too heavy-handed. That's all I gotta say with its messages. It's, for what it was, enjoyable enough. It wasn't a total pain to sit through. And it helped that episodes were only like 30 minutes long, like 20 minutes long without the commercials, so they didn't really last long enough to really upset you too much either. But I was just surprised by how much chances the cartoon took with its approach and with the, you know, tackling certain issues and surprised that the cartoon was even made, to take a character like RoboCop who shot people in the dick in the first movie and then, you know, make him, you know, remold him and repackage him for kids in a cartoon produced by Marvel, you know, for Saturday mornings, was really kind of a surprising idea to begin with. And it was actually the first time this had ever been attempted. No other show, no other cartoon that before RoboCop the cartoon in 1988, there was never a cartoon series that was based off an R-rated film until, you know, after RoboCop. Then you had other ones like, you know, Police Academy, Mortal Kombat, Defenders of the Realm, Rambo: The Force of Freedom, Toxic Crusaders, which, to be honest, Rambo: The Force of Freedom is 10 times worse than this. I mean, you think this is corny, watch Rambo: Force of Freedom. And Rambo: Force of Freedom is just awful. Awful. Terrible G.I. Joe, just wannabe cartoons. It's embarrassing. This wasn't that embarrassing to me because when you get right down to it, RoboCop is a comic book sort of idea. RoboCop himself is something that could be considered, could work in a cartoon. And I thought it did, for the most part. Yes, it's not an R-rated, you know, it's not violent, it doesn't have the ultra-violence, because it's a cartoon. But he still shoots people. He doesn't shoot them with a taser. He still makes things blow up. He still shoots things with his rocket launcher on his sweet new ride. And it is a sweet new ride. The Robo 1 was basically RoboCop's Batmobile, and I thought it was pretty bitchin' awesome. Hovering around, it could hover in the air, it had turbo boosters, it could shoot rocket launchers, you know, had a rocket launcher on it to shoot missiles, you know, could also shoot, you know, things that pop up and shoot machine guns and stuff, you know. Kind of like Burton's Batmobile, and this came out in 1988, so, you know, I'm not saying anything, I'm just saying that it has the same sort of exhaust thing, you know, in Burton's Batmobile in the 1989 Batman movie, you know, with the Batmobile with the exhaust, you know, the turbo booster in the back. It's the same sort of thing in RoboCop the series with the Robo 1. But I thought it was a pretty cool design. And then later on in the last episode, he actually flies around a helicopter that I thought was pretty cool too. It was like if RoboCop, you know, flew Blue Thunder. I thought it was pretty cool. So, you know, for a kid's show, it could have been much worse. It could have been Rambo: Force of Freedom. It could have been Toxic Crusaders. And it wasn't anything like that. And plus, it was only 12 episodes, so there wasn't like a lot of episodes to honestly really say that it was really that good or that bad. But as it stands, I thought it was alright. Enjoyable enough cartoon, you know, if you're in the right mindset. Probably you'd enjoy it a lot more if you're just a diehard RoboCop fan. You know, I wouldn't say it's one of the best cartoons of the 80s, but I would say it's a little bit overlooked. You know, there's some really good animation. I thought the score, even though it's repeated multiple times throughout multiple episodes, I thought was really good for a cartoon. And, you know, the voiceover, you know, acting wasn't the worst thing ever. It could have been worse, easily. Imagine if you had Robert John Burke voicing RoboCop in this. I thought the guy who voiced RoboCop and Alex Murphy in this, Dan Hennessy, I thought he did a pretty good job. Ann Lewis, however, Susan Roman, who did some voiceover work in Heavy Metal, not so much. Thought she was pretty bad. I really thought she was one note and was just absolutely terrible. And also, this show has some really awful one-liners, really corny lines of dialogue that are. I thought they were hilarious, but I don't know if that was intentional. You know, really awkward insults too. Like some of the most ridiculously stupid or awkward insults I've ever heard in a cartoon. I mean, right from the first episode, you have a bad guy yelling out to the cops, you know, "Suck my big fat toe, copper." That, you know, right from the bat, once you hear that, you're like, oh god. You think you're in for a long night, but really it turns out to be really entertaining. It just adds to the show's charm with these just ridiculously stupid insults that you just cannot help but laugh at them. And so, in order to adapt RoboCop to a more child or kid-friendly sort of show, they took away the bullets from his gun. They gave him a laser rifle, but he's still shooting people, which is fine. It's not like RoboCop the series where he's shooting shelves and knocking over people and shooting chandeliers and shit. Or like the remake where he's going to be shooting people with a taser. It's nothing like that. He still shoots people, still makes things explode. He just shoots them with a laser rifle. And instead of, it looks like the Auto 9, but it shoots laser projectiles instead. It's the laser weapons. And so, they changed a little bit of that. And the show is, of course, based on the original movie. And it actually has, in the intro, you have a little bit of a recreation of the death of Alex Murphy with, Clarence Boddicker shooting him and things like that. And it features Alex Murphy, the cyborg cop, RoboCop, who fights to save the city of Old Detroit from a sort of rogue elements, and on occasion fighting to reclaim aspects of his humanity and maintain his usefulness in the eyes of the Old Man, chairman of OCP. Many episodes see RoboCop's reputation put to the test or soured by the interventions of Dr. McNamara, the creator of Ed 260, the upgradable version of the Enforcement Droid Series 209, and the top competitor for the financial backing of OCP. He continually develops other mechanical menaces that threaten RoboCop. And he's a typical cheesy-ass, hand-waving 80s cartoon villain, the likes of Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget. Literally, he sounds like Dr. Claw to me, and he even has robotic hands like Dr. Claw. He's like, oh, I'll get you, RoboCop! You won this time! It's really, really goofy. But hey, it's a cartoon, and I don't know what it was. I could just deal with it. Maybe it's because I know Alpha Commando was worse. Alpha Commando has RoboCop dressed as a fucking snowman and fighting a motherfucking dragon. So, at least it's not that bad. So in the police force, though, RoboCop is befriended by Officer Ann Lewis, voiced over horribly by Susan Román. But he's also picked on and lambasted by the prejudiced Lieutenant Roger Hedgecock, who was in the first film as a minor character. He was one of the police officers that was trying to get the former mayor to come down, out of the building and not shoot the mayor. He's the guy who was asking, like, oh, yeah, we'll get you that car or whatever. He's that guy, pretty much. And basically, doesn't like RoboCop. He's pissed off at him because, this actor, I don't know who the voiceover actor is, but he sounds like Inspector Gadget to me. So you have Dr. Claw as the bad guy, and then you have the sort of a bad guy who's a part of the police force who sounds like Inspector Gadget. So you're like, I'm gonna get confused half the time. I'm like, what? Go Gadget, what? Well, you maybe should stop Dr. Claw, I mean Dr. McNamara over there. But anyway. But he really is just a typical, jealous, villain, within the, police force or whatever. And it actually leads to a really good episode where McNamara, basically convinces Hedgecock to get into a suit that he built in an episode called Man in the Iron Suit, in which Hedgecock almost literally beats RoboCop, and then also at the same time almost kills Lewis, and which then makes Murphy pissed and decides to just rip the suit apart and almost kill Hedgecock until Lewis comes up back alive and well, and then tells him, no, don't do it, you're a cop. And that's my favorite episode, and I'll get into that one a little bit more in a little bit more detail soon enough. I thought that was a really good episode, and I actually have that episode on VHS. So, also, RoboCop is maintained by RoboCop project director Dr. Tyler. And the series tone is darker and more mature than Alpha Commando. Alpha Commando is so kiddified, it's not even funny. It's just awful. It's off-putting. More on that show later. I tried watching one episode. It was just straight up pain. It was like literally a jackhammer right up my ass. It was really bad. And I gotta watch like 20 or over 20 episodes of that show. So wish me luck. This one, yeah, it is darker. It is more mature. Like I said, it deals with tough issues. It actually has RoboCop shooting people and the laser rifles, but he still shoots people. There are scenes where people are, actually trying to hurt other people and robbing, banks, and, bad guys are actually trying to hurt people and, So it is a darker tone, and it is a little bit more mature. So it's not just a kid's cartoon. I thought it had a good balance. That's why I like it, because it had a good balance between kids stuff and dumb shit, but also had some serious issues that it was trying to tackle. And so, the title sequence features a brief animated variation of Murphy being gunned down by Clarence Boddicker and his gang, which is a very violent scene for a Saturday morning cartoon. And then RoboCop struggles to deal with the pain of losing his humanity in different episodes. And, racism and prejudice at work, which is the whole thing with Man in the Iron Suit. Environmental espionage into the wilderness, terrorism, and the Middle East peace process, and a robot's revenge. And the series is based on the original film, but there are significant changes to RoboCop and the environment. RoboCop is faster and has a greater range of movement than in the movies. And so basically, this is, hey, it's like the new remake. RoboCop can run, which I didn't mind it in this cartoon, because it's a cartoon. The old Detroit of the series is also considerably more technologically advanced. Lasers replace handguns. Robots are commonplace. Dr. Tyler, original to the animated series, is the creator of RoboCop program, and not Bob Morton, and also serves as one of Murphy's confidants as well as his caregiver, along with Dr. Roosevelt. Clarence Boddicker and his gang and men responsible for Murphy's death prior to him becoming RoboCop died in the film. Here, they remain at large and battle RoboCop again in the last episode, Menace of the Mind. Yep, you heard it right. Clarence Boddicker returns from the grave in this cartoon, and it's awesome. I'm like, well, what? He's dead. Well, if anybody can come back from the dead, it's Clarence fucking Boddicker. This man, can make bitches leave on command. So if anybody can do it, he can. So, now we get into I'm going to do little short reviews of each episode. So, the first episode is called Crime Wave. And in this episode, you have Dr. McNamara, and he hires a dangerous gang called the Vandals. And basically hires them to cause massive crime waves. And the whole reason why he does so is that he doesn't believe that, the reason why he does so is so if RoboCop can't stop the Vandals, then Dr. McNamara gets his Ed 260 on the streets of old Detroit. So basically, it's Dr. McNamara hiring these gangs, this gang of bad guys, so he can get his malfunctioning, shitty-ass Ed 260 on the streets instead of RoboCop. And, decent enough first episode for a show. Some fun action here and there. Not one of my favorites of the series, partly because it's kind of annoying, especially with the Vandals. There's this one guy who just laughs all the goddamn time, and he just gets on my nerves. And he's just like one of the main guys in the gang, and his laugh is like one of those really obnoxious laughs, like it's just really, really bad, really bad. And then I just kept thinking of that line that Reed had in the first film. It's like, take Laughing Boy with you. I'm like, yeah, shut the fuck up, Laughing Boy. RoboCop, just kick his ass already. Just stop him. Just shut his ass up, please. My ears are bleeding. Eventually, RoboCop saves the day. He stops the Vandals. The first episode actually shows the RoboCop getting hurt, which I thought was hey, that's a pretty ballsy move. The Vandals, use one of their vehicles and, knock over a wall in, a mall, and it falls on RoboCop, and he, loses an arm, and he gets put back on later, and then he actually stops them as he goes in and, he grabs them, and, he stops them I think he stops them because he one of the Vandals has got a bulldozer or whatever, and just grabs the bulldozer and basically just lifts it over his head and tosses it around. RoboCop is definitely a lot stronger and more of a superhero in this show. And although I could be a little bit confused because there is another episode where RoboCop fights the Vandals again. And by the way, I'm doing this review of this show literally almost a week after I watched the whole thing, so my memory might be a bit fuzzy on certain episodes. But Crime Wave for a first episode of the show wasn't that bad. I mean, I could do without the fucking laughing boy, and the Vandals were just kind of a typical gang, but, you know, it could have been worse.
I have set up a simple demonstration of Ed 260's traffic control capabilities. I'm sure you'll find it most enlightening.
Proceed.
Will you look at that? What'll they think of next?
Keep moving.
Yes, sir.
Harold, I left my purse at the hairdresser. We've just got to go back and get it.
All right.
You have made an illegal turn. Halt.
Did you say something, honey?
I repeat. Halt. Changing lanes without signaling is a violation. You are all illegally parked. Halt. Vehicles will be towed at owner's expense. Owner's expense. Owner's expense.
Now, episode 2 I like. It's called The Scrambler. And in this episode, you have a former OCP member who's now a criminal called the Scrambler, ends up finding a way to hack into RoboCop's control system. He uses the RoboCop to break him out of prison with the help of, you know, basically he brainwashes RoboCop, controls him, uses him to break him out of prison, and now he controls RoboCop to basically rob banks for him and to try to assassinate the old man, because that's a rival of his, and the old man is responsible for this guy being in prison. And the Scrambler, you know, he sounds really bad. Like, the voiceover is really corny, sounding like, that typical type of, gangster in the 30s, like, I'm gonna get you see? That kind of thing, and the Scrambler, you see? See, RoboCop is gonna be stuck, I control RoboCop now. It's that type of voiceover. It is pretty bad. And in the animation, to me, it looked like evil John Candy with, like, bushy eyebrows. So, I'm like, what are you doing, John Candy? Why are you trying to fuck with RoboCop's head? Go back to Camp Candy. Have fun. Anyway, Scramble, I didn't mind it. Why didn't I mind it, despite some bad voiceover? Because it was different. It was actually pretty controversial for a second episode of a cartoon series to show your hero basically doing really bad things, like robbing banks and being controlled by the bad guy. I thought that was different. I don't remember seeing that much in a lot of the cartoons I had seen from that era. So I thought that was pretty different. And when and it actually added suspense. It actually made you stay and want to sit through the cartoon to the end to see how RoboCop finds a way to get out of the control of the Scrambler. So, yeah, I like the Scrambler. I like that episode.
Wait! Where are you going?
To take care of unfinished business.
Murphy, wait!
Drat! I've lost control of RoboCop. Better get out of here before he comes looking for me.
You are too late.
RoboCop!
You are under arrest.
That's what you think.
Halt! Or there will be trouble.
Ha! You'll never catch me, you computerized Creighton.
Guess again, creep.
What the? No!
You have the right to remain silent. If you cannot afford an attorney, the court will appoint one.
Oh.
Now, episode 3 is another story. I hate this episode. This episode is horrible. This episode is stupid. This episode is everything that I was afraid this cartoon was going to be. This episode is called Project Deathspore. And in this episode, you have an experiment by OCP called Project Deathspore, which escapes from some lab and ends up, wreaking havoc in the streets of, old Detroit, and it feeds off the energy of the city and the energy of RoboCop as well, because RoboCop shows up in one scene and it, like, touches him, and then he, like, loses energy or whatever, and then he starts sneezing later in the episode, and starts literally sneezing lightning bolts. Yeah, I'm not making this shit up. Sneezing lightning bolts. And then because he came in contact with this Deathspore, now RoboCop has a cold. So now, like I was saying, now you have embarrassing ass scenes of RoboCop sitting in his chair with the stuffed up nose. Lewis, I think I have a cold. And then, of course, the doctor's like, that's impossible. And I was like, like, seeing RoboCop blow his nose is not something I want to see. No. Drinking chicken noodle soup. Oh god, it's so fucking bad. And then also the whole episode is so stupid. I mean, seriously? Deathspore? So basically RoboCop is fighting the equivalent of Biollante? Like, what the fuck is RoboCop doing fighting some Godzilla villain? This fucking thing, this Deathspore, should be in the Godzilla show cartoon, not in RoboCop. So out of place. At least with the Scrambler, it's just a guy, a hacker. That, okay, I can see that happening. At least in Crime Wave, just a bunch of gang members with some high-tech weapons and fast cars. That's it. What do we have in episode 3? It goes straight from somewhat plausible things in a RoboCop cartoon to monster movie all of a sudden. I'm like, what? This shit. And then it ends in like the most ridiculous, convenient way possible. RoboCop gets over the cold because he drank that chicken noodle soup, and then he decides that the Deathspore decides to head over to OCP's new nuclear power plant, which they're going to use to power the city, and he decides the only way to stop the Deathspore is to absorb all the energy from the power plant, to make any fucking sense. So he absorbs all the energy. I can't take it. It's too much. And then he just falls off, like the balcony of falls over the railing of the place where he went to grab the energy. He just falls over the railing, data spike open, and just conveniently falls into the Deathspore, and that's what kills it. I mean, I'm not making that shit up. That's really how that episode ends. And then it's even worse, because then the episode ends with the doctor lady getting a cold, and then asking about the chicken noodle soup, and I'm like, oh god, just shoot me now, please. That's just terrible. That's awful. So yeah, Project Deathspore can kiss my ass. That episode is embarrassing and awful and just unbelievably shitty.
You really outdid yourself this time, RoboCop. Severe mechanical damage, energy at an all-time low, and your cold is actually getting worse.
I am extremely sorry, Doctor.
Well, you should be. One more sneeze and you could short-circuit your cybernetic system permanently.
Then maybe it's time for some magic elixir.
What kind of foolishness is this?
Hot chicken noodle soup.
Soup? For a cyborg?
Check it out, Doc. My mom's old traditional remedy for a cold.
Tastes good.
That's it, Murphy. Clean your bowl. Like a good cyborg. Murphy, what in blazes are you trying to do?
There is only one way to stop the Deathspore. I must absorb the power core's energy. Power core analysis is complete.
That's crazy! You'll never survive!
Nobody, not even cyborgs, live forever. Cannot contain the power much longer.
Murphy!
Energy overload. Too much.
next episode, though, episode 4, The Brotherhood, is actually quite interesting. It's where RoboCop meets a Ku Klux Klan style of high-tech criminal, criminal gang that's kind of like the Ku Klux Klan. They call themselves the Brotherhood, and their goal is to destroy all robots and cyborgs in old Detroit with a high-tech sphere, which causes errors on robots and cyborgs, and they become mad and destroy all things they see, or causes power failure. I thought that was a pretty cool episode. Cool idea. You had these villains who were basically this show's equivalent of the Ku Klux Klan. It tackled the racism aspect, because now everyone the citizens of Detroit are pissed off at these robots, and no more robots. Robots are bad, and they even have a scene where they yell at RoboCop and want to get rid of him and stuff like that. And of course, in the end, RoboCop stops the Brotherhood and everything, order is restored. But I just thought it was an interesting idea and a pretty, ballsy one to do for a kid's show. To tackle racism like that, pretty ballsy. Definitely adult, subject.
Look at this. So you think your job's rough? Well, here's one worker who called it quits today. A mysterious organization calling itself the Brotherhood has claimed responsibility for the destructive robot rampage today. The following videotaped message was sent to Media Break.
Hail the Brotherhood! All Detroit is sick, and the sickness is robotics. These inhuman metal monsters are taking over society. Robots are taking human jobs and putting people out of work.
You can say that again.
Today's demonstration has shown the world that robots cannot be trusted. This is just the beginning. We, the Brotherhood, demand that Detroit scrap all its robots, starting with the most dangerous one of all, RoboCop.
Danger!
Hey, my ball! He shot my ball!
I am sorry, but
Dad! He's after me!
Keep away from my boy. Isn't it enough you shot his toy?
Afraid of a kid's ball, Mr. Big Shot? It was a mistake.
Yeah, well, just keep away from us, you abomination. You're worse than a robot. You're some kind of a crazy freak.
He's right down with RoboCop!
Come on, Murphy. We better leave before things get ugly.
It already is ugly. Because hate is ugly.
After that is episode 5, my favorite episode, The Man in the Iron Suit, where Dr. McNamara creates an iron suit that is designed to be far superior to RoboCop and gets Lieutenant Hitchcock, who despises RoboCop, into the suit and to challenge RoboCop and to prove to the old man that his product is far superior. The old man is only concerned about which product would profit the most, so he has Hitchcock and RoboCop challenge one another in a competition to determine which product is superior and more profitable. It's a fun competition. It's a cool idea. It's kind of like a precursor to RoboCop 2, where you see RoboCop face off against another RoboCop. I like the design of the iron suit. Really an entertaining episode. A lot of fun to watch. You want RoboCop to win, so you're rooting for RoboCop to win. There's drama adding into it, like I said earlier in this video, where I talked about how the whole thing where, it looks like, McNamara's gone too far and killed Lewis, and RoboCop loses it. RoboCop's like, no way, Lewis, you killed my friend, actually has a reaction, unlike Robert John Burke of RoboCop 3, who's just like, Officer down. Like, if the cartoon can display more emotion than you, wow, what a fail. More than RoboCop 3 later. God, fuck that movie. Anyway, yeah, I really enjoyed Man in the Iron Suit. Fun episode. Tackled some heavy issues. It was definitely a lot more adult themed. RoboCop was literally going to kill McNamara until Lewis showed up and, said that she was alright. And they were going to press charges against him. But of course, that's not what happens. I wish it did, because all this guy does is literally almost throughout the rest of the show, he's part of the police force but he's a complete dick and he hates RoboCop. So any chance that RoboCop might be getting hurt or getting killed, he just sits back and just waits and just sits there and watches it because he's an asshole. So it's like he's completely useless, to be honest. He's just another villain, pretty much. But yeah, I really enjoyed Man in the Iron Suit. If you're going to watch one episode of this cartoon, I would suggest check that one out. It's really cool. It's a lot of fun. The whole sequence where he's, you know, trying to, you know, even the whole episode's a lot of, you know, cool stuff. There's this, in the beginning of the episode, it's like McNamar's going through this trial, you know, basically like an obstacle course. And he's like doing a great job with it, and then RoboCop comes in and gives his own take on it, and then that creates the rivalry. There's one thing I don't like about that episode is this corny ass scene where RoboCop goes in Lewis going to stop some crime happening at a fucking cookie factory, at Granny's cool cookie factory, and I'm like, oh god. And then Granny shows up herself and knocks the bad guy out, and I'm like, this is no. And the McNamara falls into some freaking molasses. It's like, Jesus Christ. I know it's a kid's cartoon, but that's just awful. And you see, like, there's a lot of adult sort of themes in this episode, and then you have Granny's Cookie Factory. It's just, no. So then, after that's episode 5, Man in the Iron Suit, which I really enjoy, and I highly recommend. If you only check out one episode, check that one out.
There's the little tin soldier. This is what I've been waiting for. One small step for man, one giant leap into oblivion for RoboCop.
Look out!
Officer Lewis?
Lewis!
RoboCop!
What's that cop Lewis doing out there?
This is the perfect resting place for you, RoboCop. The junkyard!
Lewis?
No, it can't be. I've lost contact with RoboCop.
I think we can begin power suit production now, sir.
Indeed.
Look, there! Over there! Something's moving!
Lewis, she's dead. Or dying, I can't tell. System's faulty. Hedgecock, I must stop him permanently.
Did you see it? I aced that sucker real good.
No, you didn't, you idiot. He's right there.
What the? Little monkey!
Can it, Lieutenant?
You're gonna kill me! You crazy robot!
You can't do this to me! I got rights! I'm a cop! You're programmed only to harm criminals!
You murdered Lewis Hedgecock, and you're going to pay. Now!
No!
Murphy! Don't do it! I'm okay. Just a little banged up, that's all.
But Hedgecock is still guilty of attempted murder.
Everything is on videotape. We can bring him up on charges later.
You have the right to remain silent.
Hey!
You have the right to an attorney.
This was a legitimate contest. She had no business being here.
Then you have episode 6, which I didn't mind either, The Hot Seat, where Dr. McNamara frees the Vandals from prison and hires them to steal RoboCop's charging chair. Without it, RoboCop is a piece of junk because he can't power up. So then the Vandals get RoboCop's chair and they try to sell it to Dr. McNamara. And the whole, drama is, will RoboCop and Ann Lewis get RoboCop's charging chair back before RoboCop runs out of power? It was written by Marv Wolfman, who is actually a fairly good writer. I think he actually wrote some Marvel comics, if I remember correctly. And I didn't mind that episode. The Vandals are a little bit more tolerable in this episode, and good suspense. It's like he needs his chair. He's losing his power. He needs the chair back. Is he going to get his power back in time in order to stop him? That kind of thing. And it also plays upon this sort of tension between Lewis and RoboCop, like as if he doesn't really work with her, or she doesn't want to work with him because of things that happened. He doesn't want to put her in danger, but then she also but she really wants to be with him, but he keeps telling her no, because I don't want to put you in danger anymore, and that sort of thing. And of course, in the end, they make up, and they're friends again, and they're partners. And they learn the value of partnership. Of course. Of course. But, yeah, I thought the way it was handled wasn't too bad. And I think this is the episode, though, where you have one scene, which is... There are like a few cringe-inducing scenes in this series, and the cold... RoboCop with the cold scenes are one of them. The whole episode, Project Deathspore, is honestly one of them. The, you know, showdown at Granny's Cookie Factory, that was a bad one. And then... I don't remember... I think it was this episode, but I don't know for sure. But there's one episode where Han Lewis takes RoboCop out to dinner at a restaurant. I'm not kidding. Takes RoboCop out to some fancy restaurant. RoboCop sits down in the chair. They give him a menu. He's like, I feel uncomfortable here, Lewis. Oh, don't worry, Murphy. It is uncomfortable to watch. It's just like, what the heck? What the hell, Lewis? What the hell are you thinking? Hey, it's kind of entertaining, because it's like, you definitely did not expect to see that.
My word!
Bon appétit, Monsieur RoboCop.
Thank you.
I'm glad you accepted my invitation to dinner, Murphy. It's nice to hang loose once in a while.
I feel strange here.
You might look different than anyone else, but underneath all that metal, you're still a human being.
Am I?
Help! Someone stole my car!
Excuse me, I have to run.
But Murphy!
But anyway, there's that. And the hot seat, a decent enough episode.
Don't worry, man. We just want a light hello.
You are under arrest. Put down your weapons and surrender peacefully.
Surrender? Man, is your brain rusty? The scavengers never surrender!
There is always a first time.
Not today, Copperhead!
Stay behind me, Lewis.
But Murphy!
Hey! You can't do that!
Get your hands off me, buddy!
This ain't no game, RoboCreep.
Murphy, don't worry about me! Stop them!
Try anything, and your partner eats track.
All right, you win.
We did it! Nobody can stop us! Nobody! What the?
So long, suckers!
You have the right to remain silent.
Then you have episode number 7, No News is Good News. This is where Dr. McNamara sabotages OCP's great new tank, the AV-7. And I liked this episode because the AV-7 was pretty cool. It was like a tank that was automated, and it could fly, it can transform and do all different kinds of things. And it thinks that all things in Old Detroit are enemies because it's reprogrammed by Dr. McNamara to do the same thing. And at the same time, you have a bad reporter, who is obviously inspired by Geraldo Rivera, attempts to defame RoboCop because he doesn't know how hard it can be. So that's the whole idea. It's called No News is Good News, because he's one of the anchormen for this news company called Crud. Get it? K-R-U-D. Crud. And their news anchoring and their ratings are terrible because they don't have any stories. Because their news anchor is talking about shit like, oh, the puppies might be hurt by these vaccines, and just really boring stories that aren't, enthralling at all. So his boss basically demands to get him some better stories like the ones that Media Break has, and so he makes shit up. He basically makes it look like RoboCop is attacking him, and, changes all different sort of things around, and make RoboCop look like a bad guy. And there's actually a little kid in this episode who RoboCop saves, and then decides it's up to him to, restore RoboCop's good name. And then all the while throughout this episode, RoboCop's trying to stop this tank. And it's a lot of fun actually to see RoboCop try to stop this tank. So yeah, I like the episode because I think it's pretty cool. The tank's cool, it's a cool design, and RoboCop is to stop it. And some decent kind of funny bits of humor with the whole, reporter guy trying to defame RoboCop, and I didn't mind that episode. I thought, no news is good news is a decent one.
Enemy identified. Locking on target.
What is that thing?
Hurry, Beer Bomb! This'll be great footage.
Shouldn't we try to help the kid?
And miss this chance to get a scoop? Getting that shot, Beer Bomb?
Did you say getting that shot? Or getting shot?
Wait here.
Hey! Where are you going?
To stop that thing. Rockets will not penetrate that armor, but they might bury it. RoboCop to Metro West. I have immobilized the autonomous weapon. Please send backup.
The SWAT team's already on the way.
I'd better see about the boy.
Interesting. Now we've got him.
The doctor says you will be all right, Joel.
I owe that to you, RoboCop.
And here is your skateboard.
Ugh, it's ruined. Wow!
I have improved the original aerodynamics by 14%.
Gee, thanks, RoboCop. One of these days, I'm gonna do something to help you.
Then you have episode 8, which is one of the worst episodes of the show as well. Much like Project Deathspore, it's just too ridiculous for words. In this episode, you have a man named Archer who steals rich people's money and gives them to the poor people. But what is the robber's real meaning and motive? Will RoboCop stop this villain? This villain was pathetic. This villain was like, you remember the Archer who was in the 60s Batman show? It's the same character. But basically, in order to picture how truly ridiculous and ludicrous the idea in this episode is, and how much you can't take it seriously, put this image in your head. RoboCop versus Cary Elwes from Robin Hood Men in Tights. That's this episode in a nutshell. Yeah. Awful. Awful episode. And predictable. I knew who the Archer was from the get-go. It was a really, it's the businessman guy who's trying to, buy out OCP. Oh, I was right. Ha ha ha. Ooh. Really bad episode. Just awful in every way, in my opinion. The action sucked. The whole idea sucked. The whole episode sucked. Sucky suck episode. Shit.
Do you think it's him?
Who?
The Archer.
I hope so. Got him.
There sure are a lot of people here, Murphy. I hope you don't have any trouble.
There will not be any trouble. Archer, you are under arrest. Please come with us peacefully.
You talk about peace and you point that cannon at me. I ask you, friends, is the man confused? Do you always communicate through a gun? How about putting it aside, metal muscles, and we can talk about what's bothering you?
Why not convince him to come peacefully?
Very well. Come with us peacefully, Archer.
Love to. If only to accompany so charming a lady. But, alas, I have an unbreakable previous engagement with justice.
Right on! Justice for the poor!
Leave it to the law to decide what is just. Now come with me, or...
Murphy, what was that you said about no trouble?
Goodbye to you all. I'm off until the next time, when the forgotten are remembered.
You can run, Archer, but you cannot hide.
Now you have episode 9, Rumble in Old Detroit, which is a lot better, where you have a frightening gang war that happens, which is actually the gang war is threatened. It doesn't really happen because then a big cargo of illegal guns is stolen from the police station because these gang members find a way to get Sergeant Reed's nephew to try to be on a part of their gang because Sergeant Reed he basically buffs off his nephew and doesn't take him to a ball game, and he's actually disabled, and so he ends up helping out the gang because they basically tell him they're going to be friends, you're going to have friends finally, and blah 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 blah, but really all they're doing is using him, and eventually gangs are trying to attack each other, and the only one that can stop this is RoboCop. And Sergeant Reed's son ends up helping out RoboCop in the end, and I like the episode because the kid, you can tell he's feeling some genuine emotions, and it sucks to be disabled, and feels betrayed by his uncle, and then eventually he realizes that these gangs don't want anything to do with him, so he actually almost sacrifices his life to help RoboCop, and for his sacrifice he ends up getting new legs, and it's a nice story. It's now he can walk. He just has like robotic legs. And he basically tells Sergeant Reed, when I grow up, I want to be a cop like you. Yeah, it's cliched. Yeah, it's corny. But, it's still got a nice heart to it. I didn't mind that episode. Plus, the gang guys were, decently intimidating. They were teenagers, but, they had these high-powered rifles. So, yeah. Didn't mind that episode.
He can't take much more of this. I don't know where the assassins got those weapons, but if they can zap out RoboCop, think what they'll do to us! We're out of here!
Lewis, I need...
Murphy, what's wrong? Murphy!
No! I said I owe RoboCop. Now it's time to pay him back.
Huh? You got brain shot, Crippo?
He's got him, Chief! Hey, look!
You are all under arrest! Tom, or I will use force!
Drop your weapons! You are all under arrest!
I agree!
Not the greatest. I mean, a lot of these episodes, Rumble in Old Detroit and No News is Good News and The Hot Seat, are ultimately, at the end of the day, just mediocre. And you could probably say this cartoon is just a little bit above mediocre as a whole, but they were entertaining. I was never bored with any of these episodes, even the worst ones. They were still somewhat entertaining. Then you have episode 10, A Robot's Revenge, where RoboCop and Ann Lewis, they're assigned as Prince Saras's and Ilmar's bodyguards. And these are two Middle Eastern leaders who will sign a peace treaty. So they're trying to sign a peace treaty anyway. But then two terrorists send an Ed 209 to assassinate the two leaders just before they write the peace treaty. Ed 260, not Ed 209, Ed 260. And didn't mind that episode either. I thought it was pretty good. One of the better episodes. Touchy subject. Handled pretty decently for a kid's cartoon. Actual assassination, terrorism, and RoboCop not only takes down one Ed 260, but takes out two in one scene. Fights one of the terrorist bodyguards, is this big muscly guy, reminds me of the Iron Sheik. So that was pretty cool to see RoboCop face off against the Iron Sheik. And enjoyable episode. Some decent, bits of humor and some good animation and good amount of action and intriguing plot.
I'm their prisoner. They're responsible for this.
If that is true, you will be released.
Delay him as long as you can. I've got a job to do at the hotel.
Halt! No systems damage. Proceed with assignment. I must reassess this opponent's capabilities.
What are you doing? You're not programmed for martial arts.
I know. Target located. Destroy siren unit. Complete programming. Now.
You said it, big boy.
Look at this. Another brilliant invention ruined.
If you didn't want us to break it, you shouldn't have let us play with it.
Then you have episode 11, Into the Wilderness, where RoboCop tries to stop an OCP factory that pollutes the water and environment. Another episode I really like. I thought the voiceover acting by the new girl who's this environmentalist was good. I thought the whole way it handled the environmental aspects wasn't too heavy-handed. RoboCop having to face off against this machine, so this bulldozer sort of thing that basically bulldozes the rainforest and the forest and things like that. It's also has attack capabilities and is shooting at them and things like that. It was a good design. The look of the environment, the forest was well done. It started out with a plane crash and them getting lost in the wilderness, which I thought was a good touch. Yeah, overall I thought it was a really good episode. It dealt with this guy who basically he wanted to be promoted in OCP, so he decided to take these chances and try to capture RoboCop and kill him. And RoboCop actually ends up finding out that these people, that this place that the OCP is running is polluting the environment and killing animals and fish and things like that. And he said this is wrong, so he tries to do something about it. And then he gets chased off by this guy, and then OCP comes in looking for RoboCop because they know that he's lost and they're trying to find him. There's a lot of money at stake, and in the end, the new up-and-coming young guy ends up getting busted, but he still gets promoted, but he still gets sent to jail. I thought was an interesting touch. The old man still sends him to jail, and then the old man has to mention to RoboCop at the end of this episode. It's like, normally I wouldn't let things like this slide, but, but since you saved me millions of dollars and defamation fees or whatever, I'll let you slide on this one, Murphy. Slide on this one, RoboCop. But I guarantee you this: if you dare disobey an order of mine again, or if you get in the way of OCP, you will pay, or something like that. So basically, the show's like, if RoboCop tries to, defy OCP, or if he tries to go against their orders, he's going to pay dearly. Which, hey, it's just like that's basically what you would see in RoboCop 2, this sort of thing that was building up with the old man and that. So, the show seemed to really understand the business politics of Omni Consumer Products. It seemed to also understand the adult themes it needed to present. It understood that this show wouldn't really work as well if it was just a straight-up kids cartoon, and I think it's better for that.
You gave us quite a scare. I was so worried.
Stand back. I will handle him.
We can't let him just take him. We won't.
This time, RoboCop, I won't rescue you.
I've been waiting a long time for this.
Murphy, it's remote controlled. There must be some cameras on it so the operator can see you.
Affirmative, Officer Lewis.
I can't see him anymore.
And then you have the final episode, Menace of the Mind, which I enjoy. Not one of my favorites because it shoehorns the Ultra Police in here, and the Ultra Police are fucking lame. Ultra Police are lame and gay and shitty. And the whole plot of Menace of the Mind is that there's a dangerous amulet with a microcircuit named a zip chip that's for sale on the black market. And basically what it is, it's like something that will... people use it and it makes their brains work better, but it also causes a lot of problems. Which I thought was a decent idea for a drug sort of idea. It's like a chip that makes you think better and makes you smarter, but also really causes a lot of, you know, damage to your body. And it's for sale on the black market, and RoboCop tries to stop the gang who's selling this, but he eventually discovers that the gang leader is Clarence Boddicker, who killed RoboCop before he was a human, officer named Alex J. Murphy. And yeah, Boddicker is back. He's flying around this high-tech airplane that's shooting at things, and RoboCop chases after him in a helicopter, high-tech helicopter. He gets help from the Ultra Police, which he doesn't need, and nobody wanted the Ultra Police. And basically he stops Boddicker in the end, and it's all about revenge, really. There's even a scene where Lewis is like, "What are you doing? Get revenge." It's like, it's not like you, Murphy, but it's revenge. They kill, you know, Boddicker is alive. You know, and I'm gonna make him dead or so. He doesn't really say something like that, but because it's a kid's cartoon, but it's something like that. And I just thought it was pretty cool. It's cool to see Boddicker back again. Like I said, don't really have a really big problem with him coming back because the show has created its own canon. It's not following the storyline or the canon from the original film. It's created its own world and its own canon, and that's okay. But that's the last episode. And it was okay. I mean, Boddicker is back, but I really think, like I said, it would have been a lot better if he didn't have the Ultra Police in there.
RoboCop! You're under arrest. Land your aircraft immediately or there will be trouble.
Ah, kiss up!
Gaining on us. I thought you said nothing else could fly this fast.
Shut up! We'll lose him in the city!
Are you all right?
I'm okay. And you?
Just minor damage.
That man's a maniac!
Yes, I know he is.
He's coming back!
Time for evasive maneuvers.
Where are they?
Here he comes.
This is getting out of hand.
Time to dust this cop with the heat seekers.
Brace yourself, Lewis.
We're going down!
That's enough! It's going down!
Please! Don't! Give me a break!
I bet you don't think I'm a very nice person. Fun's over. Fun's over. Fun's over.
No! Please!
Fun's over.
Murphy, don't! Murphy, you're a cop. No matter what he's done to you, don't let him make you a murderer.
You are under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law.
So, yeah, that's RoboCop, the 1988 Marvel cartoon. Overall, it's an enjoyable show. A lot better than I thought it would be. It's a time waster. It's a good time. If you're a fan of 80s cartoons, if you're a fan of RoboCop like me, and you can stand a little bit of corny moments and some bad, one-liners, hey, then you might be able to enjoy this. If you can't, then it might be a bit of a tough set. But either way, hey, that's RoboCop the animated series. It's no Alpha Commando.